Today is unseasonably warm, but winter is definitely upon us. And in just a couple of days or weeks, I know that temperatures are going to be dropping. They're dropping at night, and our chickens need to be protected. As a chicken owner, especially when you have seasons, there's a lot more that you need to do in the winter, I feel, than in the summer. And that is because there's just so much more care that you need to provide for your chickens so that they can stay safe and warm and well hydrated, fed, all the likes, and outlive the winter. Now, as long as you have chicken that are tolerable to the winter weather, then that's definitely step one, is just making sure that you have a breed of chickens that are hardier in the winter. But there's a lot of things that we could be doing for their coop and to our backyard in order to really prepare our chickens for this colder time of year. And the first thing is actually having a coop that is well insulated. Now, if you have a metal roof on your coop, then you want to make sure that there's insulation on your roofing. This is going to be important in the summer to protect them from getting really, really hot, but also in the winter when those colder temperatures hit, you want to make sure that there's something protecting them. Now, if you do have a shingled roof, as long as you have built it with the right materials, then there probably isn't much that you really have to worry about. So not too much there, but anything inside of your coop, if there are a significant amount of holes, cracks, anything of the likes, we want to make sure to cover those before the harshness of winter comes in, because a really cold draft and any water that could come in with that. So if you have any sidewards wind coming in, or like a sidewards rain, then that could bring in water, and then a cool breeze getting on your chickens while they're sleeping or perching could be really detrimental. So definitely make sure that in the warmer season, you're protecting, making sure that you're covering any of those large cracks or holes that you might have so that your chickens are protected for the winter. Something that we do in our coop is actually starting in the spring, we will start our deep litter method. This is basically just composting within your coop. This means that you don't actually have to clean out your coop as often, and you're also creating a system within your coop that will be creating heat for your chickens throughout the winter. All you really have to do is compost your browns and greens throughout the year. We do this starting in the spring. Every year we'll clean out in the spring and then build it up throughout the entire year so that in the winter it creates an ecosystem that is just creating a nice warm area for our chickens because of the magic of science. Another thing that we want to think about is actually the health of our chickens. We here have hardier breeds that are going to be good in the summer. They have temperament for hotter temperatures, but they also have a hardier breeding in them so that they can withstand some of the colder temperatures as well. If you do start to notice that your chickens are not doing too well, you might want to help out and provide some petroleum jelly on their combs. This is just going to make sure that they don't get any frostbites. We have had some chickens that got frostbite, and you'll notice it just kind of discolors. I'll put up a picture here of what it looks like. So if you provide some petroleum jelly, it will just make sure that everything's safe from any of that frostbite that could happen. Another thing that you can do to prevent this, and it goes back to insulating your coop, you want to make sure that your coop is well insulated so that if there is water that gets in, especially out in your run, it's going to be more typical. So providing an area that does actually have a covering on it so they can go in an area that is covered and not always going outside in the rain or snow because they want to be outside and get some natural sunlight. Just create an area that is going to be dry for them that they can go into, because if they do get wet and then some of the wind hits them in the colder months, it can create the frostbite even more. Another thing to think about is potentially providing additional heating for your chickens. If you have electric to your chicken coop, this is going to be pretty easy. We have electric that goes to our barn, so this is something that we can easily do. We actually raise chicks in the winter, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about that because it takes chicks around 8 weeks or more to actually start laying eggs. So if you raise them in the winter, then by the spring, you're going to have a lot more egg layers. Hint, hint, that's how we do it. But it can be a lot harder if you don't have electric to your coop. Once we actually started the deep litter method, this hasn't really been something that we've had to worry about unless we have chicks that need additional heat. But for any of our grown chickens, outside of the deep litter method, we don't really need additional heat. If you do also have a smaller coop, most of the time the chickens will actually create their own heat just from all being in there in that tight space. If it's well insulated, it will kind of lock in the heat. But with the deep litter method, this is really helpful because the method of composting actually creates its own heat for the chickens, and it's a lot warmer that way. If you do need to get additional heating, you can think about things like heat lamps. We also use heating sources for our water. So we use this water system, and we've also used this water band on our larger watering system so that we can actually heat our water and we don't have to go in and fill the water every single day. If you do not have electric to your barn, then you might need to just provide water every single day, bringing it in and out so they do have a source of free, accessible water. Water is really important to chickens. One, it's going to help with digesting their food, and two, water is a primary part of their eggs. So if you want your chickens to be laying good, healthy eggs, you need to make sure that you have a lot of water that they can access. It also helps with dehydration by giving them enough water, and you want to make sure that every day they do have access to clean, unfrozen water. This also brings me to food and nutrition. Like humans, during the colder months, our bodies are burning more and they're gonna need more access to nutritious food. We feed our chickens here Nature Serve, and this is a great nutritious item that you could be giving your chickens, especially our egg layers, and we do also give this to our chicks. They have so many great ingredients like essential oils, and our chickens absolutely love this feed. They come running whenever we pour it into their coop or we throw it out to them. So I definitely suggest that if you're looking for a chicken feed, you get Nature Serve, and I'll link it down below. If you need some additional ingredients to create some additional fat, you can also try cracked corn. This is going to be great for high energy treats in the late afternoon. And something, if you do kind of need some additional calcium, you can try doing oyster shells or some black oil sunflower seeds for additional fat. We found that Nature Serve provides everything that we need for our chickens, so we don't need to give them any additional types of feed. But if you don't have a feed that's packed with a lot of great essential items for your laying chickens, then you might want to add some of these other treats for them. Another thing to think about for your chickens during the winter is making sure that you have adequate roosting bars for them. Like we built in our new coop here, you want to make sure that you have around 10 inches per bird. More likely in the winter, they're actually going to roost a lot closer so that they have a space so that they can kind of keep warm from each other. But roosting in an area that is lifted off the ground is going to keep your chickens a lot cleaner, so less susceptible to diseases and infections, anything of the like, which is going to be really important during the winter when your body's just working extra hard to just keep you warm. You don't have to worry about fighting off anything additionally. And it's also going to make sure that their natural desire to be safe and raised off the ground is met. And that's why it's important to have those roosting bars and enough for your chickens to be roosting on. During the winter, we like to keep a natural rhythm with our chickens. So in the past, we have provided artificial lighting in our coop. If you want your chickens to actually lay all winter, then you want to have around 14 hours of light for your chickens. So you might need to add some artificial lighting into your coop. We kind of let our chickens just do what's more natural. So if they don't lay as often during the winter, they don't, and we just purchase eggs or we preserve our eggs so that they last us throughout the winter. But I don't like to make my chickens work any harder than they need to. They're part of our family, and we just don't need their eggs in the winter if they're not going to provide them. But if you do want to make sure that you're getting eggs all winter long, then you will want to add some additional lighting in your coop. Another thing to think about is actually providing them with enough daylight. The sun provides so many amazing minerals and nutrients for your chickens, which is why we always let our chickens go outside. Currently, we have a nice size run, and in our new coop, we're building a really big run out there. Giving your chickens the ability to go outside in the winter is key to them actually getting the nutrients that they need from the sun. And like humans, who doesn't like being outside? Now, if you can free range, I definitely suggest free ranging in the winter. It has been really hard at our homestead. We have a lot of predators and not as many options of food for them because we live in more of a suburban area. So we do actually keep ours in a protected area all winter long so that they're safe from any predators coming in, either from above, like the hawks or birds coming down, or any animals that can scurry in, especially our fox and raccoons. We've had some fisher cats that have been an issue in the past, so we definitely like to keep them in a nice predator protected area. A lot of animals are getting hungrier in the winter and they just don't have as much to feed on, so it's really important that we keep them protected during this time. Those are just some tips and tricks to keep your chickens protected in the winter, but I'd love to hear more down in the comments. And if you love raising chickens, then definitely follow along in our journey, and we'll see you guys again next time.